Wow, did you see that? Oh my gosh, that was amazing. We were sitting there watching Indiana Jones's latest movie with our mouths hanging open when he took that step and he landed on what seemed like invisible air. That was it. Hey, this is MichelleSpiva, your practical priestess of wisdom, and I want to welcome you to today's podcast of Wisdom Smack. Mwah. So come on and join me as we talk about when it is too scary to change. I'll see you on the flip. I've always been an adventure kind of girl. Give me a swashbuckling adventure full of action and fast pace, and I'm there. And so when Indiana Jones's third installment had finally come out, I was excited and I was ready to go see it. And it was life changing. First of all, it had the incomparable Sean Connery in it, of all people. And I was like, oh, yes, I have to go see this. And I remember sitting there and just thinking of how illuminating it was and how special it was. And I just couldn't get enough of it. But the thing that I remembered that stood out the most for me was when, and if you have not seen this movie, spoiler alert, I'm gonna tell you a little part about it. So when he finally goes to cross the great cavern, and have his ultimate walk of faith, yeah, I'm just gonna say my heart was in my throat because there was no way he was supposed to, figure out that final um clue, especially after he had nearly lost his life and his head in the previous one. And if you haven't watched the movie, go watch the movie so you know what I'm talking about. But anyway, I digress. So anyway, going in and watching that movie, it stuck with me that everything that he did in that movie was a testament of being scared and yet still having to act. Now, I could have talked about, bravery and all that kind of stuff, but no, today I really want to focus in on the emotion, the feeling, the mentality of being afraid, of being scared. And I say that because, like I said before, I'm talking to you guys every day about stuff that's going on in my life or the lives of others or whatever, because I don't want this to be some kind of preachy teachy where I sit high, look low. And I couldn't do that if I wanted to anyway. But this is really kind of like about just the wisdom smacks upside my head that I have to deal with. And then I'm sharing with you that, maybe, just maybe, you'll get some shortcuts, some relief, and maybe you can, you know, benefit from my experience where you won't have to go through what I'm having to go through. And I'm just gonna, I'm gonna treat this as a confessional today, seeing as I have been being vulnerable more so than usual. And I guess that's where we're just going. And so I'll say this, I am looking at some things that all indications are pointing that it's time to change. It really is. And I'll be honest, I'm scared. I am scared. And I actually was thinking about Indiana Jones's movie the other day, and I was like, I have to be able to take that step that looks like I'm stepping into the chasm of nothingness. And hopefully I'll land on something as well. And when I thought about that, shudders. It just even thinking about it now, it just went all through me. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to think about it. I don't want to think about it. And the sad part is I know that right now I am procrastinating and putting off and possibly making things worse. And I mean, not that they're bad, but making things where I am possibly not going to benefit from the optimal timing because I'll probably be forced to do it. And I'm not going to tell you exactly what it is, but it's something that's big in my life, that I need to deal with. I need to change, move, do something about it. And so it got me to thinking about some of the things that I have learned over the last few years because it seems like time is compressing and I'm learning so much so fast, and I mean deep lessons that, oh gosh, it's just continuously, I feel like I'm running a marathon of learning life skills because that's what life is requiring, now. And so I was thinking the other day, and I was going back through some of the rituals, routines, and rules that I had fallen lax on. I'm just gonna be honest, and I was like, are there any in here, that as I wrote them down that I still, sort of maybe need to take a look at or whatever. And I couldn't really think of any I wanted to salvage, but then, well, maybe I could have looked at them. And it hit me. It was like, you know what? Maybe you just need a reset. Yeah. And so I started jotting down some things. And the difference between rebooting and resetting to me is, that a reboot, you can join something or start doing something again that you stopped. But with a reset is different. It takes you back to ground zero. A reset is like a revolution. It's like a resurrection. And that's when I started getting to the nitty-gritty of my procrastination and why I'm so lackadaisical about some of this stuff that I know I need to do. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm scared. And the epiphany was it was huge because, I mean, if you had asked me this a month or so ago, I'd be like, "Nah, I'm gonna get around to it. I'm gonna do it. It's no big deal." But then when I looked at it, I was like, "You know what? It just comes down to I'm scared." And the scariness is because of the unknown. It's because of wanting to control everything. And, even if you look at some of the things we've talked about, I guess you can tell now I am one of those people. I like to be prepared. I like to have a plan. I like to have steps and things that I can do and check off and recheck and all of this kind of stuff. And even with all of that, there are just going to be times for my life, your life, our lives, where you're not going to have those. Like right now, based on what I know I need to do, it does not make sense to the average person because they might be like, well, you've got it made. Why would you do this? But and I know, when it's time to make a change. When the cloud of blessing and grace has lifted. You just know. And it's something that you can't necessarily explain to others because if they are starting to see it, it's probably too late. It's not too late, but it's probably gone too far where you should have already taken advantage of it. And I know I'm talking cryptic today, but sometimes I need to talk to you guys about stuff without telling all my business. um, but I want this to be where it helps you as well. So let's just really kind of get in to this. And today, unlike most days, I was like, you know what? I'm going to let this just organically go. I'm not going to try to put any steps together because I can't. And I'm trying to work it out just like you are. And so we're going to work through this together and see where it leads us. And so, one of the things that I have been doing to help me prepare for the change that I know I need to make is I've been trying to round out my knowledge. I went back and I started studying this Greek and Roman deity, and her name is Trivia. Now, she has other names, Hecate, and a few others. But they normally attribute her to being the queen of the ghost, the queen of the crossroads, and the queen of witches, and all of this type of stuff. And I was like, Trivia. Why would your name be Trivia if you're that deep? It's even said that God is trivia. That when you hear dogs howling at the night, and howling at the moon and all those types of things, they are announcing that she is walking past. She is in the land. They're also announcing that the witching time has come to go and stand in the crossroads, and all of that. And so I was like, there's something to this. And I continued to go down the rabbit hole, if you will, to figure it out. And you know what I found out? I found out that what we equate to trivia today is a wives' tale that used to say that when people would go to a crossroads, and the crossroads back then was usually a three-way instead of a four. Yeah. And this was before, automated transportation and even horses. So a lot of people were just walking. And so sometimes when people would come to a crossroads, they would use it as a rest stop. A lot of times, crossroads were rest stops because it usually meant that you were going whatever direction it was going to take you to a new town, a new hamlet, a new location where you were going to have a group of people. And so people would use it, like I said, as a rest stop. Sometimes there would be even vendors there. It was a big deal at these crossroads. And so they said that the conversations that they would have, the idle conversation, the pleasantries, the idle chit chat that you do with strangers, the small talk and talking about just various different things from the different lands where these people would come to these crossroads, and you might be from um, Sardinia, and the other person might be from um, Philippa, or something like that. I don't know. I'm just calling names out right now. But the camaraderie and the broad range of topics and, the pleasantness of it, the various miscellaneous information that, you might not ever use or need for a particular skill became attached to the goddess of the crossroads name, trivia. And so I said that to say that like I said, I was led to go and check her out. But when I was thinking about rounding out my knowledge, what I have been finding is that wisdom has been afoot. And some of the things that I've been thinking are trivial knowledge, they have been coming in handy to help me help others when I get a chance to, but as well as starting to form some type of foundation and cushion for how I'm going to make this invisible leap to the next phase of what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. Yeah, it's on that level, you guys. So it's not something trivial. But in getting trivial knowledge, meaning that knowledge that piques my interest, that helps me to not be so heavy in only my favorite disciplines, going and figuring out stuff that I'm not necessarily interested in, but finding that it has some value and some interest has really been helping to round my knowledge out. And what I've been finding is that I'm starting to get an edge because of this thing. And I'm gonna mention this book right now. It's called The Talent Code by Daniel Coyle, and the subtitle is Greatness Isn't Born, It's Grown. And in this book, and I got it years ago. In this book, he talked about three different things that a person kind of sort of needed um, to become talented. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because the change that I'm going to have to make, I'm going to have new skills, new talents to move in this area because I've never moved in this way before on this level. And so I was like, I need to, kind of pull that book out and remind myself of what he was talking about. And so one of the things he talked about, now I've talked about deliberate practice from Dr. Anders Ericsson, but in this book, this guy talks about deep practice. And what he is talking about is the kind of practice that you use with guidance of as a coach. So it's kind of like sort of the same as deliberate practice, but he calls it deep practice. And what he says is that there are three components that a person needs to understand if they're going to grow a talent. And I'm saying to grow a talent to meet the requirements of the skill that it's going to take when you make your next leap. So he talks about this deep practice. And he says, that it's kind of like the it's the foundational thing that you have to be willing to do. And that it's not only that you want to practice so that you have a deliberate intention of increasing your skill faster than conventional practice, which means that that can include getting what they would call master coaching, from those that are elite in their understanding of what they do. Okay. And so with this deep practice, so you would get this master coaching, but it's not only that, because you have the deep practice, you get somebody to help you, but then there's also this component called the ignition. And ignition is just another word for motivation and your reason why. And what they say is that doing this deep practice, you kind of want to have somebody in your corner who's not only your cheerleader, but also um, a teacher or a coach, and who's really good at giving you reasons why you need to stay motivated to do this, for however long it takes for you to gain the skill, no matter how bad you are at it. And that's why I'm bringing this book out, because unlike other books that kind of allow you to think that you have to have a natural talent or gift for something. This book is all about, if you want to do it, this is how you do it. Think about the people who want to sing and they may not have the best singing voice. But in this book, he like devotes different stories, and he talks about a vocal coach in here who has helped some of the top recent contemporary uh, pop artists to learn their craft and develop the talent. Yes, develop the talent to be able to do what they do today, and make it look like, oh, she was always, or he was always, talented. And so I like that. And so with the rounding out the knowledge, that's when I remembered that book. I pulled it out and I started going back through it. And I started looking at the fact that, yeah, I have got to um, get ignited. And so because of that, I did something that I hadn't done in a while. And that was to reach out to someone who was doing what it is I want to do. And wouldn't you know, they responded. Yes, they did. And I'm hoping that I will be able to um, tell you who they are soon, hopefully, because they may be willing to come on the podcast as a guest. Yeah, woo, 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 woo. Real excited about that. So there's that. And then the next thing is not only rounding out my knowledge and reaching out and doing what this book reminded me to do, and that was to get some help, some master coaching. I also, now I'm not saying that that's the next part is part of the talent code book, but what I am saying is connection. So I talked a little bit about that the other day. And what I am learning is that when I engage in small talk with strangers, it's the weirdest thing. Wisdom smacks me here and there. Just today, I went and I decided I wanted, instead of cooking, for whatever, I was like, you know what? It's been a long week. I'll go and grab something, to eat. And I like this, place because they have great these. Oh my gosh, they do these steamed vegetables, but they have a little bit of a char. And I was like, okay, I want that. And so I got that with my entree, but they were. Low on them, and I had to wait for them to cook. And so, of course, when you're waiting, and everybody's waiting, you may chit chat. And because I am now aware of that, I'm trying to make this scary change, and I'm trying to do everything I can to get wisdom to give me some help here. I engaged in, some chit chat with the people in the lobby waiting with me. And there was this one gentleman, and he he it was just amazing. He told me quickly, he's like, today was, he said today was his off day, and that he should have just gone to work because he had been running all day for his, wife and kids and stuff. And he even told me that he's been married 30 years. And then the wisdom smack happened. And this is what he said. He said, my wife asked us to move. And he said she wanted to move here to, where I live from another state. And he said, I was in the military. And so I was taught how to be okay with change. And he said, I said, okay. I said, wait a minute. He says, yeah, I had a good job and everything. And she just wanted to move here. And so we packed up and moved. And he says, I was blessed to get another job and everything has been fine. He says, I still would like to, live where we used to. And I asked, I said, well, weren't you scared of making that change? And you know what he said with a smile? He said, of course. He says, but aren't you always going to be scared when you do something new? And then he said this. This is the thing that really got me, okay? And that was that change is it's only temporary. And he said, we got here and we got on our feet really fast. And then it was no big deal. He says the kids got acclimated to school. I got a great job. My wife is happy. And he says, and that's how you stay married for 30 years. He's like, you just say okay to change. And I was like, "Oh my freaking gosh." So, I was like, I had other podcasts planned, but I was like, "Nope, I am talking about this one because wisdom showed up and showed out again." And that was it seems so simple, but I guess because of what it means to face your fears and face the afraidness, because I'm gonna tell you, if you have a predisposition like me, you are the kind of person who wants to figure everything out before you make this first step. I've already talked about my karmic issues that I have to work with. I've already talked about the perfectionism and the resistance to life, and I've already talked about having a problem sometimes if I can't do it perfect the first time, and so getting that smack where that guy told me that out the blue, his wife said she wanted to move to a different state that they don't have any family in. And he said, okay. And he left a good job without a job here. But because his wife said, let's go, he was like, okay. Now, he did attribute being able to be so flexible to his time in the military, but still. He was like, change only lasts for a minute. And he says, and once you just embrace it, you find a way. And the next thing that I got from that, I talked to you guys a little bit ago about the adaptability quotient, that it was going to be bigger than the IQ, intelligence quotient. And, and I even talked about the progression from the intelligence quotient to the emotional intelligence, emotional and social intelligence quotients. And that now we're looking at the adaptability quotient. And I was like, you know what? This is sad because I am, touting, oh, I am good with change and I can move and do this. And yet I'm failing famously because I'm not, I'm finding that I'm rigid and stuck in my ways. And so I was like, oh my gosh. So that's the next thing I want to say about when it's scary to change is that we have to use this as an opportunity to grow our adaptability, to grow what it means to let go of everything that we've known, everyone that we've loved. If they're not scheduled to make the change with us, and because of that, I look at it and I now have more compassion for when I tell people, just do this or do that. And I know I've told you guys before that when you hear that word just do, that's scary. That's not cool. That's not a good phrase because it it takes away all of the stuff that people have to deal with psychically, emotionally, memory wise, and all of that. And so, the just do it kind of situation is not that easy. But I will say that because I've been willing to go back and look at, it started with me going back and saying, I really need to do what it takes to get unscared and going back and doing all this stuff only to find out that wisdom was saying, I'm not going to remove you being afraid. I'm not going to remove the antsiness that you get in your stomach. And, talking to that guy today as I was waiting, to get food, I thanked him and he actually got to order before I did because what he wanted was ready. But he did come back around after he got his food and was about to leave. And he said his goodbyes, and he said, "It was nice talking to you." And he says, "Whatever it is that you're trying to, do," he says, "just do it, but know that it's going to work out, and you're only going to be a little apprehensive for just a little bit." And that was just so great to me. I just was, I knew that that was like an angel in disguise, if you will. I don't know his name. I don't know anything, but that specific thing, that wisdom spoke through him to help me with that. And so I want to, kind of like recap what I talked about today because my time is coming to a close. And I know it wasn't like our traditional talks, but it's where I am right now. And if you're listening and you give a care, just send up a little bit, just a little bit of um, support or hope or whatever, that I can do what I need to. Now, that doesn't mean I'm not going to, continue to do my podcasts and stuff. It just simply means that I have to do what I'm supposed to do. And it's been scary and I've been putting it off and making excuses and hiding from it. And now it's past time for me to do it. So much so that I'm putting it out here by faith that I will do what I'm supposed to. Um, so and I'll say this part of the scariness is I know what I'm supposed to do, but I don't know how to go about doing it. That's where the big issue is. I don't know, like with Indiana Jones, I don't know how to get from where I'm standing to where what it is I'm supposed to be doing is located. There is nothing in between. There are no bridges, there are no signs. um, and I don't know how to do it. And so that's why, I'm talking to you guys about this because I'm like, I can't, it's too big to even leap over. I can't cross that kind of distance. And so yeah, I have to kind of like just get ready to take the plunge, if if you will, and hope that I sprout wings or some invisible bridge appears when I do that. And so, in all of my vulnerable ramblings today, let me go back and recap what we talked about of what to do when it's scary to change. And the first thing I did was I went back and I reviewed my normal routines, rules, and rituals. And I was looking for something that was going to help me to get some more insight on what I needed to do. Now, one of my routines is journaling. I've talked to you about the power of journaling before. And so that's one that I know, no matter what, I journal. But these were some that I had kind of let by the wayside. And in going through those, I realized that no, I don't necessarily need those. What I needed, and I didn't even need a reboot, I needed a reset. And that was, I needed to have a rebirth, a revolution, a revival. I needed to have something that put me back at w- square one so that my world became new again and that I could hopefully see new ways of attacking this existing problem. And that then left me with the brightness of getting a clear vision to see that I needed to start rounding out my knowledge and not just going after the stuff that I like, but getting interested in to investigate and look at trivial knowledge. And that's what we talked about, the goddess trivia and the crossroads and people making chit chat when they would come to these crossroads and seeing people from different lands. And I realized that some of the knowledge that I thought was trivial that I might not ever use was getting together and bridging together for me to build a new matrix of building skills and talents that I would need. And that's when I talked about the talent code by Daniel Coyle of how greatness isn't born, it's grown. Because like I said, I know that I have to have these new talents that I don't currently think I'm proficient in. But because of me trying to round out my knowledge, including trivial knowledge, I started getting the matrix and I realized that it was time for me to get a master coach. And I reached out, and the person that I reached out to was like, yeah. let's do it, and I'm very grateful for that, because I wouldn't have never thought about it. Go figure, right? And then with that, the deep practice of starting to get in there so I can really hone in. And last but not least, connecting and making small talk with strangers and allowing wisdom to come through, you guessed it, trivial small talk with strangers. We're not at crossroads, we're at restaurants, but it's all good. It's all working. And so as my time is fastly ticking down, what I want you to do, if this resonates with you, maybe borrow what I'm doing and don't focus so hard on what you already know because it's not going to help. And don't focus on trying to alleviate or diminish the fear and the afraidness and the scaredness that you feel. It's there for a reason. It's there to keep you alive and awake and let you know that you're on to something new. So with that being said, guess what? Yes, my time is up. I thank you for yours. This has been Michelle Spiva, your practical priestess of wisdom, with another episode of Wisdom Smack. Mwah! I'll see you tomorrow. And that's going to do it for today's podcast of Wisdom Smack with Michelle Spiva. If you like this podcast, please help us get the word out. Like, comment, subscribe, and even share. And if you really like it, please help us continue to get the word out by considering using this show's link for Amazon. So when you want to go to Amazon and you do all of your general shopping, please use MichelleSpiva.com/AMZ. It's simple as that. It doesn't cost you anything extra, and this show might receive a little bit of commission that will go towards helping to further get these episodes out to you and to others. So thank you so much for listening. This has been Michelle Spiva with Wisdom Smack. Bye.